Hey guys, I'm going to be chatting to you today about alternatives to sugar. That nasty, white, villainous table sugar and all those other sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup. We like the taste of sweet, but I want to show you an easier and much, much healthier way to assuage your sweet tooth. Alright guys, so here we go with my alternatives to sugar. And when I say sugar, it's not just the white sucrose, the table sugar, that is in so many foods and so many processed foods, but as you probably know, high fructose corn syrup and agave and all kinds of different syrups are also put into a enormous variety of the foods that you'll find on the grocery store shelves. Why? Because it makes it taste better. So just be aware that they take out, the food manufacturers, one thing and they'll put in something else. So they take out fat, for instance, and now they know that it's not going to taste as good, so they'll put in sugar, or they'll take out sugar and they'll put in fat. So either way, we are evolved as human beings to like fatty, sweet, and salty. It's the way we've evolved. It's not our fault, but the food manufacturers take great advantage of that by putting it in everything to get you to get addicted to it and like it and buy it. Unfortunately, it's leading to massive disease in this country. We have obesity rates that are through the roof, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, cancers, the whole shebang. It's a big old mess. So in sum, we need to really moderate our use of sugars, really start reading labels on packets and make sure if you buy a box, a can, a packet, just look at those sugars. You shouldn't be eating too much sugar. And we need to wean ourselves off our sugar addiction. And I'm not one, as you know if you watch my videos, to preach and drumbeat and you shouldn't. But if there was ever one should, it would be please try to get rid of sugar, too much sugar out of your life. So what I've done to keep it really simple in the terms of the sort of healthier options is that I divide them into 4 different groups. So the first one is what I call the ultra sweet sweeteners. And then we have sugar alcohols, and then we have the low glycemic, and then we have the more nutritious sweeteners. Let's start off with these ultra sweet sweeteners. So they are stevia and monk fruit. Most of you have heard of these two guys. It's debatable how healthy they are. I believe that in moderation, both of these substitutes are relatively healthy. But again, in moderation, my friends. They're ultra sweet because they're 300 to 600 times sweeter than regular sugar. And here's where I have a problem with them. Because you know those artificial sweeteners that I have a massive problem with. So the Splendors and the aspartame, the chemical sweeteners that have now been proven to be really, really deleterious to your health. So they also are, 300 to 600 times sweeter than sugar. But these I'll put in that same bracket of kind of badness, if you like, because what we're basically doing is you're sort of messing up your brain, your signals to your brain. And there's been some fascinating studies done where they've fed people these kinds of sweeteners like stevia and monk fruit, or the chemical equivalents of the ultra sweeteners, or like a Diet Coke or something. And then an hour later, they offer those people that have had the ultra sweet sweeteners compared to the people that had a piece of fruit or a very sort of not so sweet sweetener, like some dates or whatever, and they'll offer them some candy or something sweet. And the ones that have had the ultra sweet sweeteners will they'll be desperate to have that sweet food, because what happens to your brain is it gets these messages of ultra sweetness. When is that sweet food gonna come? Because it kind of hasn't come yet. You haven't eaten it, so it just keeps on craving those sweet foods. So to make it really simple for you, be very, very careful. We need to train our taste buds away from this crazy ultra sweet sweetness. We really, truly do. So if you have your stevia and your monk fruit in moderation. The next group that we go on to is the sugar alcohols. They are also pretty sweet, but not that much sweeter than table sugar. So cup for cup, kind of, I would use it in the same quantities. If you're using a cup of sugar in a recipe, you could use a cup of xylitol or erythritol. These are known as sugar alcohols. It's a little bit misleading, that name, because it's not actually an alcohol. They're naturally derived. Without spending too much time on these, I will say, so xylitol has 50% the calories that sugar has, 50% less, and erythritol has 0 calories. Out of the two, I would be more inclined to go for a erythritol. One, because of the 0 calorie, and 2, because it doesn't cause the same, it doesn't have the same laxative effect. Some people can get some sort of digestive issues. I'm not going to say distress, that's too great a word, but issues as in needing to go to the bathroom shortly after eating xylitol. So if you're a little concerned about that, you're going to stick with the erythritol. The one other little thing I want to say about xylitol, there are some health benefits aside from it just being a sweetener. It's used in sugar-free chewing gum often because it is really good for oral health and preventing cavities. So xylitol does have some health benefits. Where would I use these? As in the back of this packet, if you're baking cakes, cookies, you can use it in so many things, beverages, etc. So again, that just, if you're making a tray of brownies and you don't want to use sugar and it's for a diabetic, again, erythritol is perfectly safe for a diabetic. So that's that. Now let's move on to our low glycemic. Now we hear a lot about this word, the low glycemic, but it still has a glycemic index. I am showing you coconut sugar here just because it's so trending right now. You see it in everything, and it's really touted as a, you know, very healthy alternative to sugar, to brown sugar. Well, yes and no. I mean, it's still will raise your blood sugar. On the glycemic index, I think coconut sugar is around 30 to 40, which is relatively low. I do like coconut sugar because it has a nutty taste, which I really like, and it does have a trace amount of nutrients, vitamins and minerals, but very, very small amounts. So if it was a toss-up for me between brown sugar and coconut sugar, I would probably personally go for coconut sugar. By the way, it doesn't have it doesn't taste of coconut at all. So if you don't like the taste of coconut, you can still enjoy that. But again, with anything like this kind of a sweetener, moderation. Because I think the one thing that I have with a lot of these kind of health trends and health experts that are going, oh, coconut oil or coconut sugar is the miraculous thing. It really isn't. Whether it's coconut oil or coconut sugar or anything, if it's a fat, a sugar, or indeed some kinds of protein, everything in moderation. That's one takeaway I can give on this video for you. It would be that. Finally, with the risk of making this video too long for you guys, let's talk about the sugars or the sweeteners that are my favorite. And I call them the food sweeteners because I see them almost more as being foods than sweeteners, because they're not empty calories. So that is an empty calorie. That is an empty calorie. That is a semi-empty calorie. And this grouping here, there are nutrients. So we're talking honey. So honey really is a food. There's a lot of nutrients and enzymes in honey. But the honey really needs to be raw. It needs to be unpasteurized. And of course, there are really great honeys like Manuka honey that has health benefits over and above even just raw honey. Then we are looking at dates, which I love cooking with dates. I use dates a lot in smoothies and cookings. I make a date puree. And if there was probably the one sweetener out of all of these that I would use the most of, it's the least sweet, of course, is date sugar. Again, it is actually a food because in dates and date sugar, you know, there's a lot of fiber, and fiber, I always say, is the forgotten nutrient, very important. And then finally, there's one sweetener that I very recently found. It's very new to market, and it's called Sugar Vida. And it is actually from the Palmyra tree blossom, and it does contain a lot of nutrients, and it's very low on the glycemic index, and it actually, I like the taste of it. It tastes really nutty, rich in B12, low GI, 30, 35, low fructose, it's diabetic friendly, and it's a lovely one to sort of sprinkle on your oatmeal or your yogurt or, you know, even in a beverage. So that, my friends, I really hope you find that helpful. I've just had so many questions about these sweeteners, and it does get complicated. And there's a lot of people that will start vilifying one of these or none of these or whatever. But really, that's my take. This is how I live my life as a nutritionist. These are the things that I will use in my life. And just to finally finish this video, and please leave me comments on this, because I really want you to hear what you have to say. But out of these, I'm just going to show you what I actually use in my life. I don't really use monk fruit. Occasionally I'll use stevia. My husband likes stevia. He uses it in drop form just because he prefers it rather than the powder. Be careful with stevia, because some stevia products are mixed with other artificial sweeteners and marketed as stevia, and they're not, so be careful. Out of the sugar alcohols, I prefer erythritol, and I did explain to you why. Out of the low glycemic, I will go for a coconut sugar or a coconut nectar. And there is one more, which I haven't mentioned, and I just didn't have it to hand, but I want to throw it out there just in case anybody mentions it. It's called Yacon Syrup, and I will put a link to that underneath the video. And then out of all of the sort of food sweeteners, I use every single one of them. Dates, date sugar, honey, and this new finding Sugavita. So that's it. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time, my lovely friends. Bye.